Kim, I'm already smiling and I'm just so excited to talk with you today because as I was preparing for this conversation with you, um, the two things that stood out about me or about you to me was you love coffee and you love dogs. So we're gonna have a
You
great
betcha.
conversation. Oh, I love that. How are you this week, Kim?
I am doing great. I'm doing great,
Well, we
which is great, which is good. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Not often do you hear that from people.
I know. Nowadays, you don't know what someone's gonna say. So, uh, yeah. So I'm glad you're doing well, and this is an exciting day for you because your latest book, officially came out today. Perfect time for the
It
conversation.
did. Yeah, perfect timing. 15 ways pets teach us kindness and other little nuggets of hope.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Well, Kim, dive right in because you and I haven't had a chance to meet until today. I've looked at your background and just your love of pets and just some of your story and I love the nuggets of hope that you try to spread like confetti. I saw. But what's your story? What's your background? What led you to writing these books and then just your love of animals? Because a lot of your books are geared towards them.
Growing up, I was outside all the time, and that's just what kids did. We were outside, we drank from the hose, we played, freeze tag. We didn't have cell phones or computers or any of that, you know? So when mom and dad said, get outside and play, you left in the morning and you were outside all day long. But you had to be back in before the lights went, the street lights went on. So
Yeah.
I was always outside, always in nature, and loved animals no matter what they were. I would bring strays home. I would bring injured little birds home or bunnies or toads, whatever. So that's always been a big part of my life since then. And it's always been, I think, foundational nature, because to me, nature's very healing. And I learned that more as I, grew older and the season I'm in now. The season, I like to say that instead of my age. The season I'm in life right now, um, that's become more important to me. My personal peace and being able to breathe and to pray and to appreciate those small things that we so often in the busyness of life overlook. All those little nuggets of hope. So that's my foundation, is being out in nature. Grew up in small town America. Like, one stoplight, American flags everywhere. You drive through it and you just think in your head, America. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? One of those little towns. And I'm so thankful that I did. Everybody knew your business, which was not a good thing sometimes, but everybody knew your business, and that was a good thing sometimes. So had that as a background as well. Didn't start writing until, gosh, my mid-30s. I had never really thought about writing, but I'm a veteran, and I had written a speech. I'd never given a speech, never written a speech, never spoken public, and I was asked to share a story of my step-grandfather, and in front of a very large group of veterans, and there's about 800. There was television cameras there, newspapers there, and here I am, first time ever speaking in public, and I wrote the speech. Took me about 3 weeks and countless times of having other people read it back to me and reading it out loud and all that, and I did that, and afterwards, the local newspaper editor approached me and said, "Would you consider writing a monthly article about veterans for the paper?" And I said, "Oh, I'm not a writer, but thank you. I appreciate you asking." And he says, "Well, wait a minute. Who wrote your speech?" And I said, "Well, I did." And he goes, "Well, then you are a writer." So that moment was a bit of a turning point, and that someone saw something in me that I did not. I was just doing it because it was a personal story and I led with the heart. And then I found, for me anyway, because I don't have a professional background or education in writing. I write from the heart and my feelings typically come through it, and so I just keep doing that. And I've been doing that for years. And looking back now from when I started, I'm like, wow, Kim, that was so horrible. That was written so bad. So I like to think that I've improved over the years, but that's
Yeah.
how the writing started.
Yeah.
Animals have always been a part of my life, and I live with PTSD, and my dogs throughout my, I'd say the last 25 years, have been a very central part of keeping me grounded. Um, they just intuitively know, like, if my anxiety's creeping up, or a panic attack is creeping up. A lot of times they have known before I did, and they'd come and be nudging me or bumping me with their head, and my focus shifts to them, even though I'll be like, "Quit, leave it. You don't need nothing. You're fine." And then I realize, oh, they're not leaving me alone. And then I feel it. And I'm like, "Oh, okay, here we go." And they've been able to keep me grounded. So to me, gosh, they're just such a huge part of my life and have been and will be. That I
Yeah.
don't see that ever changing. Um,
Yeah.
and so, of course, when you're that close with an animal, and I know many people out there listening are, you feel like, they can see right into your soul, you
Yep.
know?
Yeah.
And there are those dogs that you look at and you're like, wow, you are way more than a dog, aren't you?
Yeah.
You know? And
Yeah.
so and everybody has that one dog. I've loved all my dogs, but there's always that one. And for me, that was Digger, and, he was that one. Now I have Dexter, who is he's just my buddy. He is my buddy, and he is my rock now too, and he plays a big part in this new book because he wrote a lot of it because he's really
Yeah.
smart, very
Yeah.
witty little dog. So
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
wrote a lot of this book, and
Yeah.
he shares his thoughts on how humans can be kinder. And I think that's pretty smart. I think we need to listen and watch our animals much more closely than what a lot of folks do.
Yeah. It's very interesting you say that. I'm just sitting here thinking about my dogs. I've got 2. I've got, one named Django, and then I've got Miller. Through my wife and I, we rescued him, last year, and, I was against getting him. I was like, "Nope, we don't need one," and then we got one, and I was gonna pick him up and put him on the show here, but he went downstairs, so, he's been hanging out with dad all morning, and, sometimes I gotta kick him out. He makes too much noise. But you're absolutely right. When I know my wife and I, we're extremely motivated and we fill our days up with a ton of just stuff to try to accomplish. And we can get to a point where we're just go, 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 go. And then when he comes around and kind of paws at you, both of us just melt and we're like, all right, buddy, what you want to do? Let's take a moment to pause and let's go walk and let's play. And their love is unconditional and the joy they bring and just you're right. They have such a huge impact on many people. A lot of people are very attached to them. I mean, my wife, I don't know what she would do without this dog. I think he's her one. Uh, but it's
Yeah,
just I don't know, there's something they know things, they can sense things, it's just incredible how intuitive they are, and it's just, I don't know, God made them that way and made them very special, and so it's just
I
it's
firmly
fun
believe
talking
that.
about
Yes.
them with other people who are dog people 'cause, it's just you just know.
Yeah. Yeah, you just know. You're right. And I agree that God made them the way exactly how they're supposed to be. And he made it so they're here with us as long as they're meant to be here. And I have to remind myself of that because it's really hard to say goodbye.
Yeah, and they're
You know,
they're not here
it
long.
crushes you.
Yeah, they're never here long enough. They're never here long
Yeah,
enough. I've got
and I
one that
have to remind myself, you know what? They were here as long as they were meant to, and my
That's
goodness,
right.
they did their job well.
Yeah, yeah,
So I have to thank God for that even in the midst of grieving. It's like, thank you. I know I need to remember thank you for loaning me that soul for as long as you did. Yeah, they're just amazing, and they're so smart, and I know with my dogs, especially if I'm having, like, a bumpy day, I call it, like, if I'm feeling edgy and, just feel like I'm constantly, like, ugh, tight in the chest or, gritting my teeth a lot, and I have to tell me, "Okay, physically, Kim, settle. You're fine. You're safe," you know? And I'm like, "Time to go for a walk." And you sit there and sometimes, in the busyness, like you were saying, you and your wife, you have all these things that you're doing, you're going. We all do that. And when I take my dog on a walk, and there are times I'll be like, do you really need to sniff that piece of grass for 5 minutes? Let's go, let's go, let's go. And then I get this little nudge saying, no, Kim, what's the rush? Let him sniff it. That's how he reads a book. That's him reading. Let him sniff it. And while he's doing that, take a big old breath and look around you. And every time I do that, I see something amazing. Like it's a mama bird feeding three little babies, feeding her three baby birds that are just, learning how to fly. You
Yeah.
could tell they just jumped out of the
Yeah.
nest,
Yeah.
all
All the
this noise.
fall trees right now, the changing of
Right.
color.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's good.
Anything, a dewdrop hanging off of one of those beautiful red leaves,
Yeah. Yeah.
a sunrise, a fox running across the field. And you're like, oh, wow, look at that. And you stop for a minute and you're like, okay, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Yep.
I
Yeah.
think we need to recognize those moments and don't rush your dog because he's trying to teach you a lesson too. I firmly believe that.
That's right. No, you're 100% right. You're 100% right. And I've tried to shift my thinking on that. So it's like it's good to hear you explain it that way, because I know it's important to pause, and sometimes it's hard. But knowing that you're the way you phrase, let your dog enjoy, his time, and you enjoy that time with them. It's so important. But no, so your book, you were in the Air Force, is that right? That was the military branch, you were in the Air Force? Cool. Yeah, and then obviously you kinda transitioned, you wrote your speech, and then now you've written multiple books. You've written a lot and not just about animals, but, or not just incorporating animals, but what I guess what led you to just diving in and going from not being a writer at all to now publishing several books? Did you all of a
The
sudden
pandemic,
yeah, yeah, well, I was gonna
the
ask,
pan
was there a moment that, like, the passion grew to where you were like, "Hey, I this is what I do now, like, I love this, I have a responsibility to write n because I have a message to share." Sounds like the pandemic was maybe that moment.
it was, life changed big time, as it did for millions. And I had lost my job during the pandemic, along with millions of others, and I had not been in that position before. And I'm sitting there going, well, this is a weird season in life to not have a job, you know? And then you've got the fear coming in and anxiety. I'm like, no, 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 no. I'm not letting that stuff land. Not going to do it. So I gave myself 24 hours to be really angry. I'm like, you got 24 hours, Kim. That's it. Be angry, go out back, go scream, yell, swear, kick a tree, whatever it is you need to do. Be angry for 24 hours. And I did that. And I did it really well. I did it really well for 24 hours.
What
And
did
then the
your
next
dog
day I woke
think
up and went,
during
all
that
right.
time?
He sat. He literally sat there in the yard just looking at me like, okay, lady mom's doing her thing,
"What's
you
wrong with
know?
mom today?"
And I did. Went outside and yelled. I went outside and just like, screamed, "Ah," just letting that out. Gosh, that feels good sometimes. You gotta do that, folks. Don't bottle it all up. It's not healthy. So the next day I was like, all right, what do I like to do? What am I good at? And what do I have a passion for? And let's sit down, make some notes, and make something happen. And so I started a podcast called Let Fear Bounce. Literally that day, had no idea what I was doing. Literally none. I Googled it. 2 hours later, I recorded my first episode. I
Yeah.
didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
5 years later, I'm still doing it.
Heck
And
yeah.
during that time frame, I met some amazing people. And I had joined several online networking groups, women networking groups that encompassed women from all over the world, different countries, different nationalities, all kinds of stuff. And there were a few that I met with that I still keep in touch with today from outside of the US. And one of the women, her life had changed like mine. And she said, well, I'm considering and working on creating my own small publishing house, a faith based publishing house. And I went, how can I participate? And she said, well, let's write a book together. And I said, okay. We didn't know what we were doing, but that's how the anthologies, When Grace Found Me, Volume 1, 2, and 3, that first 12 months, we did 3 books and 20 women sharing their stories. So it's 60 women total that came together to write these stories, and her and I got those books out, and that was what really, because the feedback we received was just tremendous, and the people that were sharing their stories, most of which had never written anything before. And so it was a lot of work. It was a big, big, big learning curve for us. And, but it was also a ridiculous blessing, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
60 women that we had never met sharing stories that can bring you to tears
Yeah.
so fast. But then you're smiling at the end because you're like, wow, look what God did,
Yeah.
you
Isn't
know?
it so
And so
cool that
that
when
was
you
kind of like,
put yourself out there and just do things you're uncomfortable with and just take a leap of faith, how so many just amazing blessings and things can occur in your life when you just again take that leap. I tell people that all the time as I'm in like the recruiting space and so I'm involved with a lot of companies hiring and this sort of thing. But teaching the importance of networking and going to meet people and however you do that. But the more people you can connect with and build those relationships with, you never know where those are going to lead to. And I mean, you, as you were joining these networking groups, you probably had no idea this is what it would have led to, but look how cool of the opportunity that presented itself and what you guys did with it. It's just, I just find that I love to hear people talk about taking a leap of faith and just doing something and just going for it and then, hearing what happens, and in this case, something amazing came from it.
my pastor had said before, and I think it's also a book that we read, you're not going to accomplish anything unless you step outside the boat. You got to step outside the boat, folks, you
That's
know?
right.
Um, and maybe you're going to sink underwater a few times.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Mhm.
Just
Yeah.
keep swimming. Just
Just
keep
keep
swimming.
swimming.
What was her name? Dora? No,
Yeah,
what's that
Dora,
fish's name?
Nemo, Finding Nemo.
Yeah, Finding Nemo. Just keep swimming. Just keep swimming. Just keep
Yeah.
swimming, folks.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been quite a journey. And it's been, like you said, doors opened. Here's one of my things I've learned over the past 5 years. Always connect yourself and build relationships with people who know way more than you do. That's been huge for me because there's so much I don't know. But there is so much I've learned about podcasting, about writing, about publishing my own books. So I self-publish my own books now. I help others when they want to self-publish their own books. I'm helping them. You know, now there's a lot of stuff that I've learned that I really just don't want to do, but I figured I better learn it anyway because I want to understand it. I might not necessarily want to physically do it, but I want to understand the process. So always keep learning and always, surround yourself and make relationships with people that are smarter than you. I think that's this, to me, those are two nuggets that I carry with me all the time, and because I'm not one to sit. I can't sit and do nothing. And I don't ever like to think, if I sit there, I'm like, well, I should be working on another book. Yeah, I've got that in my blood now. you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
So this
The
book today was just released. It's just a mini ebook. And it was so fun to write and put together and look at my dog and say, "What are you thinking? What words of yours should I put?" It was just so fun. And then as it was done and it's been being marketed for the last few months, I'm like, I want to expand on that. How can I make it in so it's being expanded as we speak. So it will be an actual paperback book
Yeah.
with a lot more from Dexter in it. And so that's gonna be fun. So I'm like, "All right, this ebook here is just a quick, fun little read with little nuggets in there," you know? But the paperback book is gonna be more of the same, only Dexter's expounding on his thoughts and his idea and his wisdom, so
Yeah.
that's fun.
That's awesome. I love that, and I love what you said
I
about
just like to keep working, keep
yeah.
writing, keep working. What else can you have to, and also, I don't know, tell me if this is the same for you. You get an idea and you're like, "Oh my gosh, that is so cool. Let's start, let's start, let's start." And then you get that little nudge saying, no, wait a minute, wait a minute, you know? And then maybe a few days later or weeks later or months later, you're like, now I'm supposed to because something happens or a person is put in your path or you read something and you're like, oh,
There's the
because
sign.
that's how my last book before this one, Nuggets of Hope, that's how that one came about. I had this idea and it was like, no, wait. And then little things started happening. And I was like, oh, now's the time? Okay. Does that happen with you?
Oh, all the time. Yeah, all the time. There's and again, this is a higher power happening, but yeah, there's always signs and there's always something that if you're supposed to do something, um, you'll know. There'll be something that nudges you in that direction or a sign that says like, "Hey, I'm not letting you forget about this. You need to get moving on it." It's yeah, that's interesting. It's sometimes your dog's the sign. They give you the sign, which is another funny thing, yeah, but I love what you said about continuing to learn and continuing to grow, and that's kind of the purpose of Books for Guys is encouraging young men to have that same approach, to pick up a book and read something and learn something. And if you're struggling with something, somebody else has probably struggled with that too. Read how they got through it. If you have a passion of wanting to build a business or you want to be the best athlete or the best dad, there's a book, there's a blueprint, and it's a cheat sheet. You just got to go learn it and get yourself out there to want to gain that knowledge. And so I love hearing you share that message because that's exactly what I'm trying to share with others too. Is just don't stop,
And
don't
even if
sit.
you think it's outside, yeah, don't stop and don't settle. But the other thing I think is even if you think, because I know I've looked at stuff and I'm thinking, it sounds interesting, but, is that something I really need to learn? Yeah, it's not really what I do. And then I get that little nudge. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
learn that too. Because
yeah,
so think outside the box
hmm yeah. And it opens up the
and
way you
learn
think too.
outside the box. Learn
Yeah.
outside the
Yeah.
box.
Well,
Yeah,
learning about other people, learning about other hobbies, learning about other just expanding your brain, to be receptive to things that you maybe aren't comfortable with or you don't know enough about, and that's why you're not comfortable with it. Um, but it's interesting when you read about things and learn about things, all of a sudden you become a lot more comfortable with it, and you're like, "Oh, I understand this. Okay, this is cool, like, way different than I had perceived it to be." Um so it's just the
right.
power of reading and learning, and so, again, I just love that you brought that to attention here because I was like, "Yep, preach, Kim, preach, Kim."
Yeah, don't let fear of the unknown hold you back
That's right, that's
because
right.
that's what so many people do. And then you feel stuck and then you have that heaviness that hangs on you. I've been there, I've done that. I'm probably going to do it again. But at least now I can recognize it and say, "Kim, what are you doing?" You know, get online, pick up a book, go to the library, talk to someone who's smarter than you. You
Yep,
know?
yep. Yeah.
And it's yeah,
So
the possibilities are endless. Really, there's little nuggets out there waiting for you to find them. As long as you got your eyes and your heart open, you're gonna find them.
yeah, yeah. So with this short story that you're turning into a longer book, your nuggets of hope. For people who are reading this, I guess what are I don't know, if there's one nugget of hope that you hope somebody takes from it, what's the most important one in
The underlying theme to it is kindness because the world is sorely lacking in it
Barry?
from my perspective. And that's not how it's meant to be. We're not meant to be divided. We're not meant to be hateful and any of that. We're not meant to. And I refuse to let that stuff land on me. I refuse to let it in my door. It's not coming in my back door. I think to me, that's just the D man at work and he's doing a really good job lately, but he's not going to come in my house, you know. And So, what was your question? My brain just went near. What was your
Yeah, no, well, you said, one of the most
what's
important
the most important thing?
thing be
Yeah.
kind.
See, this is how
Yeah,
my brain goes. Um, the most important thing, kindness. And to me, I firmly believe that that is the underlying thing for so much of what we do as humans. First and foremost, be kind to yourself because if you don't feel good, you're not going to treat others well. So be kind to yourself. Is that a lesson in humility a lot of times? Yeah. Oh boy. Yeah. And you also have to remind yourself of it every day. And what does being kind to yourself look like? Maybe it means just taking a walk, taking 10 minutes and making a walk and just, or taking a walk and just breathing. Put your darn phone down. Get away from the screens because we weren't meant to be on screens 24/7 either. Our brains are not capable of absorbing all the information that is on these things 24/7. And if you're on it for hours and hours and hours a day, your brain's on overload. No wonder everybody's feeling stressed and depressed and anxious. Get your face away from the screens.
yeah,
Get outside and breathe.
yep.
Be
It
kind
makes
to
a huge
yourself and get outside. Those are my 2 things.
I love that. No, and it makes such a huge difference, and I think a lot of people know that. The struggle is actually doing it as you just again, you kinda overload yourself and you're just you're the I can't think of the word, but your hard drive's just it's going crazy because you got so much you think you've gotta do, but there's nothing wrong with pausing and just taking a moment to recharge. Take the blue sky in, take the trees in, and play with your dog. If
Right.
you got a dog, that that's your responsibility too, to take a pause for them and make sure they're good, and, um, yeah, I love that you share that because I think if you asked a lot of people, they would agree. That's what you gotta do. It is the hard part is doing it, but I think continuing
And
to
you know
share that.
what? To do it, get up 15 minutes earlier.
Yeah, yeah,
You
yep,
know, stay up 15 minutes later. Take your lunch hour.
yep,
Yeah, because not everybody works from home. So, take your lunch hour, take 10 minutes of that to do nothing. Go out and sit in your car and turn on some mellow music or whatever it is that you listen to that might relax you and close your eyes. You know, you can always carve out time because everybody has excuses. Yeah, I know. But why not?
yeah. And
Why
if you can
aren't
make
you
that a
doing it?
part of your routine, it gets easier and easier. And obviously, then you start to refresh yourself over and over, and you feel a lot better after doing that. And so, uh, no, I love that from you. Be kind, be gracious to yourself, focus on these things to make yourself better. No, I 100% agree with that. Well, Kim, I have one more question for you. I ask everybody this. Um, as far as, you said growing up, you really weren't a writer until later, but I always ask people about books in particular. What's been a book when someone asks you for a recommendation, maybe one that's had an impact on yourself personally? What's a book you like to recommend to others?
I don't have one. I
Okay.
don't have one book.
Yeah. There's a
And
lot.
I've been asked that question. I read like 3 books a week. And I've always been a very avid reader since I was very young. So there's never been one book that has really, really stood out to me. Now I have authors that I love to go back to again and again or reread their stuff, and most of it's fiction. I write nonfiction. So I enjoy getting into fiction and reading those things, but I don't have one book per se. But the most important book to me personally is the Bible.
Yeah. Yeah, and you can read that over and over and over again. There's always something you're gonna take from it. I
And you
finished the
can read
Bible
the
for the
same
first time
thing
this
over and
year.
over.
Yeah, so I read it for the first
Y
time this year, completed it. Um, I've got I've now got so many more questions. I need to reread it over and over and over again I can see why people say they read it every day. I'm like, yeah, there's so much I gotta figure out here.
excuse me. And you can reread the same passage, like, 3 or 4 months later, and it
Yeah,
means something completely different to you.
yes. It's, I learned that. There's and we could have a separate discussion on that, but there's so many things that I learned this year about reading it and why I don't know, at different points in life, it can mean something different. You read it in a different context, it can read something different, but it keeps you chasing and trying to figure out what did this mean, which is a really cool thing. And to talk with people now, yeah, this is so interesting. There's so many different ways we could go about this discussion. It's just, I don't know, it's super cool. It was just kind of one of those things. I started the year off with one of my goals, to read it within the year, and just finished it a few weeks ago. Yeah, I've gotta read it again. 'Cause there's just more
Now,
to figure out.
I have a question for you if we have time.
Yeah.
So, do you have a favorite verse that has been jumping out to you over the
Favorite
past year?
verse? Ooh, that's a really good question. Um, I don't know that I have a favorite verse. I'd have to think on that, but I do my favorite part of the daily reading was definitely the Proverbs because there were so many just like there's just so many you can read and apply to yourself every day. And so I looked forward to Proverbs every day because I was like, yeah, man, okay. And if you can just apply those lessons and stories and just the what those tell you to do and how to like keep your life organized there. The proverbs were just my favorite thing to and they were easy to comprehend and apply. Um, just very simple things to live by.
I agree. That to me, that's the easiest part of the Bible to read
Yeah. Oh yeah,
because I'll be like,
maybe that's
"Oh, I
why I
get
liked
it."
it.
Because yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah,
My
this one's
my
easy.
favorite is Isaiah 40. Yeah, yeah, you're like, "Oh, I get it." Because a lot of times you're reading something, you're going, "I don't I don't understand what that means."
Yeah. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
All the time. Yeah.
But that's okay. That's okay. Where I don't think we're meant to understand every word of it. That's why we're supposed to keep going back to it.
Exactly. Exactly. But what was your favorite verse?
Mine is Isaiah 40:31. But those who hope in the Lord will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary, and they will walk and not.
Love that. Yep.
To me,
I've
it's
heard
the
that one.
picture of the eagle.
Yeah.
It's the picture of the eagle, that
Yeah.
power, majesty, resilience. They have to. Eagles are birds of prey, and they have to fight to stay alive each day. There's a lot of stuff they have to overcome to be who they are and what they're meant to be. And then seeing one flying across the field, I have one that lives near, and I see it flying across the field just like gliding. And you look up and I'm in awe every time. And I'm like, wow, God, that is just amazing. Thank you again. Thank you again for that. Because it's just they're silent power and majestic. Boom.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, Kim, it's been a pleasure. This conversation, I love conversations like this and I love the positivity that you bring, the energy that you bring and that you're trying to share with others. And just continue dropping those nuggets of hope in your books and what you're trying to share because it makes a difference, if somebody needs there's a lot of people that need that right now and the kindness that you bring and so can't wait now that I know you to continue following your work and what you're doing and just keep doing it. You're doing amazing things.
Thank you very much. This has been fun. It went really fast.
Yeah, it always does. It always does. But
I
no, and
know.
Kim, we'll
Yeah.
have your stuff on the Books for Guys website so people can find your work there. People will be able to follow you and everything that you do. And so again, it's been a pleasure. I appreciate it, Kim.
Thank you. Have a blessed day.
You too.